Good evening to you all and welcome to Political Agenda. Tonight's edition is entitled The Iranian Interference Within the Affairs of the Gulf States. It became clear the intentions of Iranian policy towards Gulf states through its irresponsible statement issued by the so-called Iranian Shura Council National Security and Foreign Policy Committee, which accused Saudi Arabia of playing with fire and called on Riyadh to withdraw its troops from Bahrain. Tehran's statement intentionally ignored evidence of Iranian interference in affairs of the region's countries, its violation of their sovereignty and independence, and its attempts to incite sedition. Moreover, Iran's foreign policies are hostile and contravening the international norms and laws. Our episode will shed light on Iran's policy towards the region in general and the Gulf states in particular. It also highlighted purposes and results of such policies. Issues to be discussed are many, but let's watch this report and we'll come back to you for further discussion.
Iran's directions became obvious through its plans and interventions in the political affairs in many countries of the region, whereas it is always trying to destabilize the security in those countries for the conduct of its own interests and at the expense of people of those countries. Iranian policy is a policy of aggression and no respect to the international laws and norms, not even the principles of good neighborliness. Since a few days, Saudi Arabia expressed its deep indignation and disapproval of the irresponsible statement issued by what is so-called Commission for National Security and Foreign Policy for the Council of the Islamic Consultative Assembly of Iran, which announced that Saudi Arabia's policy is playing with fire in the Gulf region and called for the withdrawal of its troops from the Kingdom of Bahrain. It is noted Iran's ongoing attempts to provoke sedition through cynical and irresponsible statements and accusations that often oriented to incite people upon their leadership and provoke sectarian dimension. We have recently seen the Iranian actions represented in spreading sectarianism toxins in Bahrain and other Gulf countries and planning for plots as an attempt to destabilize the countries standing against threats of Iran, which surprised by Gulf military collaboration represented in sending GCC Peninsula Shield forces to maintain security in Bahrain. We also witnessed the angry reaction of the Iranian regime as a result of their failed plan in Bahrain, which indicated the deep trauma they have suffered and make them do not know what to say. For instance, the first state when Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei depicted the use of Peninsula Shield forces in Bahrain, which came after a request from Bahrain and as an implementation of the Convention on the GCC defense as a Saudi intervention against people of Bahrain. He also confirmed that the losses will catch up without asking himself about reasons staying behind their interference in Lebanese affairs. Moreover, the other furious reaction came from Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad when he criticized the participation of Peninsula Shield forces in protecting Bahrain's security, in addition to his criticism of efforts asserted by the government of Bahrain in maintaining security and order on its territory. Since the arrival of Ahmadinejad as a president, Tehran put its influence through loyal groups that implement its expansionist ambitions across the Arab world, such as the Lebanese Hezbollah, which wants to reverse the political system in Lebanon, is counted a focus of the Iranian influence in the region, as stated by some Lebanese leaders. After that, they extended to Yemen through the Shiite insurgency, Houthis, and so on in the rest of the Arab countries. When it came to extend the influence to Bahrain, Iran planted sleeper cells in there in cooperation with the Lebanese Hezbollah. But the wind does not blow as the vessels it has failed to chart in Bahrain, because Iran thought that Bahrain is the main station to extend their influence in the Persian Gulf. The Kuwaiti authorities recently announced the detection of a spy network working for the Iranian Revolutionary Guard last year. Meanwhile, the Iranian embassy denied any connection to that network. This case made sharp differences between Kuwait and Iran, which prompted members of the Kuwaiti National Assembly to demand the expulsion of Iranian ambassador from Kuwait and the withdrawal of Kuwaiti ambassador from Tehran. Gulf Cooperation Council always considers Iran as a brotherly Muslim neighbor that is eager to maintain Gulf security and stability, just like the Gulf Cooperation Council is always keen not to interfere in the internal affairs of Iran. However, the successive events since the arrival of President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad to power in Tehran clearly indicate that the moderate policies were pursued by the Iranian prime presidents Khatami and Rafsanjani have changed, and we are witnessing all such Iranian policy trying to extend its influence in both Iraq and Gulf Arab states, which is detrimental to the higher interests of Iraq and the Arab Gulf states and to the bilateral relations between Iran and Arab world.
Welcome back, and thank you, Asma. And to discuss the topic furthermore, I have along with me from Manama, Bahrain, Dr. Sheikh Khalid Al Khalifa, member of the Shura Council and Vice Chairman of the Committee on Foreign Affairs. Thank you for joining me. And from Washington, I have along with me also Hussein Abdul Hussein, political analyst and a writer at Arwai newspaper. Thank you for joining me. From the studio, I have along with me Dr. Ibrahim Nahas, Doctor of Political Science at King Saud University, and later on in the program, Dr. Ayad Al-Manna, Professor of Political Science at Kuwait University. Let me begin from Bahrain with Dr. Sheikh Khalid. Dr. Khalid, could you describe the fundamentals of the Iranian foreign policy towards the Middle East in general and the GCC countries in particular?
Right. In fact, what we had witnessed in Bahrain in the last 4 weeks, a coup attempt to establish a republic or an Islamic Republic state in Bahrain as the one in Iran.
Okay.
In fact, that attempt or coup attempt is started by a peaceful means of demonstrations, but later on turned into violent and clearly stated by people like Hassan Mushayma, the leader of the Haq movement in Bahrain, that he attempted to establish an Islamic Republic state in Bahrain. Therefore, there are 2 ways of dealing with this. First, internally, Bahrain government has to secure security in the society and stop and eliminate all the chaos that had happened in the main towns in Bahrain and cities. Therefore, that was the first step. Secondly, we had to maintain external threats, especially from Iran, and that was actually defended by using the Gulf, the GCC, through the Peninsula Shield.
Let me go to Washington with Hussein Abdul Hussein. Let me begin with what benefits or which benefits will Iran obtain at the expense of the region's countries if there is chaos? Will not that affect negatively on the Islamic Republic of Iran, being its neighbors, if we have chaos in the Gulf states?
Well, I'm not sure the policymakers in Tehran know exactly what they're doing, whether inside Iran or around the region. But as far as we know that starting 2007, Iran was already expressing intent toward negative intent toward Bahrain. At the time, an editorial in Kihan said Bahrain was only one of the provinces of Iran. So this attitude of regional bullying is not new at all in Iran. Of course, the Islamic regime in Iran has been bullying its own people, repressing its own people, has been trying to find inroads in other countries, starting with Iraq, now of course Bahrain, and there has been trouble with Kuwait in the past. In 2007 there was an aggression against one of the diplomatic Kuwaiti diplomats in Tehran. So I'm trying to say that Iran has had these kind of aggressive intentions and bad behavior regarding its neighbors so many years back, and I think this whole issue of commenting on whatever is going on in Bahrain and the entrance of Saudi troops into the kingdom has nothing to do with what's actually happening inside Bahrain. I think it's part and parcel of the ideology of the Islamic Republic. And you know, when we call it the Islamic Republic, one might think that what drives Iran is actually Islam. Well, at times many of us will have to beg to differ. Iran is not what it claims. We've seen Iran remain silent when it comes to its strategic interest. When there was some sort of Islamic unrest in China, Iran, who claims to be the defender of all Muslims of the world, remained silent because of its strategic ties with China. So the Iranian policy in the region has been a mix of bullying and hypocrisy. And I think regarding Bahrain, we see nothing new. Regarding Kuwait, these days we see nothing new either.
Dr. Ibrahim, that leads me to another question. The Iranian interference was so clear and distinguished through the last events in Bahrain. So which reasons are staying behind choosing Bahrain to execute Iran's failed plans against the Gulf states?
Yes, as what your guest said before, the history of the Iranian policy toward the Gulf state isn't new. They knew that the aggressive talk right now or policy right now, just that, and it came to the public. Before that, they worked
under the table.
Under the table right now, because that policy didn't work, so they lose their actually ambition or something, and they go to the public. Right now, what the Iranian try to practice actually, as your guest from Washington said, isn't about sectarian issues. It's about ethnic issues. The Iranian policy use this their policy right now, the aggressive policy toward the Gulf states, to make their regime inside the Iranian more stable and more strong, because the calm policy in the Gulf states and the calm policy inside Iran, that will affect the Iranian regime negatively or badly in the future. So they cannot live without that, without this policy, that the aggressive policy. Iranian population inside the Iran, they see they look to the Gulf states and they see the development here, and they don't have it there. So they will talk about it, and that will affect the government. So the government, the Iranian regime, go badly toward the Gulf states to bring all the Iranian population to support their regime against foreign
countries and foreign policies.
Foreign countries. And for that will make them live and
united, at least inside.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yes, it's the same thing.
If they stop aggression against people, the people of Iran will go against their government. Is
absolutely.
That what you're saying? Okay. Let me move on to Sheikh Khalid. Sheikh Khalid, Iran denied doctrinal nature in Bahrain events and demanded Peninsula Shield, Dir Al Jazeera forces, to leave Bahrain because it described the existence of these forces as an occupation. In your point of view as a member of the Shura Council, what's the role of the Peninsula Shield, and is it an occupation?
To be frank, we are not. To be frank, this is not the case of an invasion as most of the Iranians, at least the government in Iran, would like to believe in. You see, if I can give you the example of NATO, NATO countries can move armies from one country to another of member countries. The United States of America has a military base in Germany. Does that mean the United States have occupied Germany? In fact, the Peninsula Shield, all the members can move armies from one country to another without really having the permission to from Iran, for instance. You see, the case in Iran has is of two folds. The first is internally, that's for the internal consumption in Iran, and as well as in Bahrain for the followers of Iran, at least some of the followers of Iran in Bahrain. And secondly, Iran would like to think of itself as the superpower of the Gulf, or at least of the area. Therefore, you find that the Iranians would like, anybody would like to move military movements or to act in defense of their country, to take the permission of the Gulf, and that's Iran. Iran would like to think of itself as a superpower. Nobody can move or have a political movement internally or externally without the permission of Iran. That's the case, I think, which Iran would like to insist on.
My guest from Washington, let's go. However, Iran planned for the last events in Bahrain years ago. Its plans miserably failed. How can you illustrate that failure upon the Iranian regime?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question. Can you please repeat it?
Well, it's said that Iran has been planning for the riots in Bahrain years ago, and it appeared that Bahrain now calmed down. The failure of these plans upon the Iranian regime, do you think will affect negatively?
Well, I think so many things affect the Iranian regime in terms of domestic issues. I don't think Bahrain would be a big deal in Iranian politics, but I think certainly Iran is trying to project some sort of power to deflect its own population from the domestic problems that they face. Now, of course, trying to show this as a sectarian conflict throughout the region or as a regional conflict between Iranians and Arabs across the region. These are the platforms that the Iranians have been trying to use over the past year, at least in part to repress their own population. Now, if Iran was so keen to defend the rights of people in Bahrain or in any other country around the region for that matter, would probably think of Iran as a country who's the cradle of human rights, which is not the case. Of course, we know that the Iranian regime is oppressing many minorities and non-minorities, and even the political opposition inside Iran. Now, as many of us know, there's a community as big as 2 million Arabs who live in southern Iran, and these people have been repressed for a long time now. So what the Iranians do in these cases to divert the attention from the domestic problems that Mr. Ahmadinejad face, and probably to cover on other ambitions such as the nuclear issue that has been a point of contention between Tehran and the international community at large. To deflect all this attention, I think the Iranians have been trying to talk about Bahrain or about other countries around the region. I have another example on mind. Iran has been talking about confronting Israel for the past 2 decades or so, but I can never remember of any activity that the Iranians have undertaken in this respect. So to speak, the Iranians only talk about confronting Iran, but when it comes to the real issue, I think Iran is only using this as a platform to hide behind and to divert domestic attention.
Okay, Dr. Ibrahim, I'll come back to you, but I have a few minutes with Sheikh Khalid in Bahrain. Dr. Khalid, I'll come back to you. Bahrain's Shiite opposition leader, Sheikh Ali Salman, declared, "We don't want Bahrain to turn into a conflict zone between Saudi Arabia and Iran. That's why we object to the Saudi intervention." He refers to the Al Jazeera shield or the Peninsula Shield. "We call for immediate withdrawal of the troops and we reject Iranian interference." Why did he explain the GCC backup to Bahrain represented an existence of the Peninsula Shield forces as conflict between Saudi Arabia and Iran, in your point of view?
It is clearly that Iran doesn't want to understand that there are other countries in the Gulf that have a sovereignty. Iran would like to see all the Gulf countries, including Saudi Arabia, under the umbrella of Shiism. And that's the tool which Iran using to control, or at least to have its influence on the Arab countries adjacent to it. Therefore, the Iranians, in fact, are not in position to judge the movements of armies or development of political developments in the Gulf without its consent. Therefore, I think talking about, I refuse myself talking about rejection from the Iranian side for the GCC. I would not call it intervention, but I would call it a help to see security in Bahrain at its best. You know, I cannot really agree on the terms of calling this intervention, so-called intervention by Iran, as a mean to see it as a mean of political relations between both sides, the GCC countries and Iran. Therefore, I think we must reject the Iranian call for withdrawal of Saudi. I would not call it Saudi, in fact, I would call it GCC countries.
Yes.
From Bahrain. I think all the countries in the GCC have the right to decide what type of cooperation they would like to have, whether it is military or economic or social. And we believe that we are heading really in the GCC towards a one-state
unity
confederation.
Okay. Doctor, let me just stay with you. Now, since the Peninsula Shield came in Bahrain, we have seen the calming down of the situation. Explain to us more about the situation now in Bahrain with the presence of the Peninsula Shield guarding some of the main government entities and government institutions, rather than they did not interfere personally with the uprisers or the rioters, if we to call them. Dr. Khalid, I'm still with you.
Hello?
Yes, you hear me now?
Sorry, I missed the question.
Okay, my question now, could you explain the situation now in Bahrain since the presence of the Peninsula Shield? Is it calming down? Is there any problems nowadays in Bahrain? Tell us about the situation.
Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is very successful at Bahrain. The GCC countries have actually participated in protecting the main, protecting some of the factories, establishments, and they did not actually take part into the calm down of the riots. They did not participate at all in the riots or calming down in the riots, but mainly in protecting the most important establishments in Bahrain. Therefore, it has been a very successful exercise here in Bahrain. Everything is very calm. We have a great respect for the participation of the Peninsula Shield. People in Bahrain are welcoming this great move, a historical move in Bahrain, and we hopefully that would like to develop such cooperation in the future, not only during troublesome periods, but also during peaceful times. I think this exercise should be maintained and should be continued in good time, in peaceful time, in all Gulf states for the future. We know that Iran in the past and present and in the future will still have its looks or policies into expansion in the Gulf, and therefore we must be ready. We must always have the exercise of meeting this challenge with continued development and continued cooperation on military bases.
From Manama, Bahrain, Sheikh Dr. Khalid Al Khalifa, member of the Shura Council and Vice Chairman of the Committee of Foreign Affairs. Thank you for joining me in Political Agenda. And dear viewers, a short break and we'll continue discussion Political Agenda. Welcome back to Political Agenda. The viewers now joining me from Kuwait, Dr. Aid Al-Manna, Professor of Political Science at Kuwait University. Thank you for joining me, Dr. Aid. And before I come to him, I have a question. I delayed your question. How can you illustrate the aggression on the Saudi consulate in Tehran, which occurred soon? Which mechanism should the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia adopt to deal with such Iranian hostile policy, Dr. Ibrahim?
Yeah, we used to some of these, work or something from the Iranian towards Saudi Arabia since the 80s, and it's continued since that time. Saudi policy always calmed about these issues, and in my point of view, it should be like this and continue like this, because you have to work in diplomatic way. If you go hard like the Iranian, they will win actually. Your policy, Saudi policy, during all decades, it's calm and go to diplomatic way and work with, your brothers here, the Arab countries and with the Islamic countries, and you can, win this in the future.
Okay, let me go to Washington until my guest from Kuwait gets ready. Let's see, Abdul Hussein, how the Saudi or the Gulf, the GCC countries should deal, because Iran reminds us since the revolution in 1979, they occupied the American embassy, and we know what happened then during the Reagan presidency. But now they are harassing the GCC representatives in their own country. In your point of view, how should the GCC countries react towards that? Should they react politically? Should they react, in your point of view, what should be the reaction?
Well, I think the reaction should be a mixture of so many things. But the main theme of such reaction should always be that the world and the GCC should once and for all draw a line in the sand and tell the Iranians that the world, there are rules and regulations around the world, whether these rules and regulations come in the form of Security Council resolutions, or whether they come in terms of security in Bahrain or Saudi Arabia or Iraq or Lebanon or any other country in the region. I think the Iranians will keep on behaving the way they're behaving as long as they feel that there's no price to pay for whatever they're doing. And the more harassment they commit, whether in countries like Lebanon through their proxies or directly in Tehran against diplomatic missions of Gulf countries, I think this kind of behavior will grow more and more, and the Iranians will be more bold in doing what they're doing, unless they feel that there's a price to pay for whatever they're doing. And by saying that there should be a price to pay, I don't mean that the GCC countries should wage war against Iran tomorrow. I think it should be a combination of diplomatic pressure, economic pressure, and if need be, all these pressures should be backed up by military muscle. Iran should realize that there's no free ride, whether in the Gulf or in other countries in the region. I think a combination of such policy might cut Iran back to size and might convince the Iranians that this region is not a free ride for whatever whimsical ideas that the rulers of Tehran come up with.
Okay, Dr. Aid in Kuwait, first of all, could you describe the relationships between Iran and Kuwait before and now? There was a spy net spying for Iran in Kuwait. Two people were probably sentenced to death, and many politicians were asked to leave the Kuwaiti. Tell us about the relationships between Kuwait and Iran and why Iran is playing a tough role towards the GCC countries in your point of view.
Thank you very much for inviting me. The relation between Kuwait and Iran up to the disclosure of this spy net was very warm, and the Kuwait playing a very positive role to introduce Iran to the world through political, tourist, cultural relations, and also economic relation. The Iranian coming and going to Kuwait, and we have no whatsoever anti-Irani reaction. We usually visit Iran and the Iranian visit Kuwait. I really surprised when I heard about this such of spying net operating in Kuwait, because as a friendly nation, the Iranian should respect this kind of very close ties with Kuwait, and the Kuwaiti concern to respect the Iranian sovereignty and the Iranian right to operate in their countries peacefully without any aggression from any outside world. Also, Kuwait repeatedly said that it will not be a position or a base for any aggression against Iran. And that's also remained the question why Iran spying on Kuwait. I just want you, I quote from President Najad what he's saying, that that he actually is not denying what Kuwait accused Iran. He also directing insult actually to all the Arab states. He's saying that this accusation it is has no meaning. What is this spying in Kuwait all about? What does Kuwait have that we spy on? If Kuwait has nothing to spy on, why you are planting your spies in Kuwait soil? If is it, as he said also, Kuwait, it is, we are the friend of the Kuwaiti people, the Kuwaiti people friend of us, we are the friend of the government of Kuwait, and the government of Kuwait friend of us. Then why you are sending your people under the cover of different covers to spy in Kuwait? That means he does not trust Kuwait, and he really want to act when the time come to act against Kuwait security, especially the internal security, because the spies interfered in or infiltrated the military establishment, and trying to know about the Kuwaiti army, the Kuwaiti police, the personalities, the economic installations. That means it is an action of enemy, not an action of a friend at all. I don't know how Mr. Najad described this as a friend. Also, Mr. Najad say that this accusation actually pressured by the United States and the Gulf Arab states to accuse Iran of interfering in their region. The spokesman of the National Security and Foreign Affairs in the Iranian Shura or Parliament, Mr. Kazim Jalili say that the Arab states, just listen to me, the Arab states are aware that their dependency on America and their cowardly behavior towards the Zionist regime is a form of humiliation that they are imposing in their own people. He actually accusing the Arab people to be coward and not confronting the Zionist movement. It is only Iran who confront the Zionist movement. I really just to ask Mr. Jalili, when that happened, we haven't seen any confrontation between Iran and the Zionist state in Israel, but we witnessed so many events that Iran either attack Arab country or occupied Arab islands, as what happened in the United Arab Emirates, or spying on Arab neighbors, or planting political or agent parties in the Arab states, such as in Lebanon or in North Yemen or other part of the Arab world. And that's mean actually, unfortunately, we having a neighboring country who really want to export its problems to its neighbors and to claim that it has been surrounded by the enemies and those enemies might attack Iran. That therefore the Iranian must be careful and spy on them to take military action when it's necessary. This is really a terrible situation, either what happened in Kuwait or the interference in Bahrain between the government and the political opposition there.
Okay, let me remove this question or move this question to Dr. Ibrahim. Dr. Ibrahim, Now, the Iranian, the Kuwaiti government, as Dr. Aid have spoken, they are surprised. The people of Kuwait are surprised of finding a spy net. If we have nothing, why are you spying on us? If we have good relations, why are you spying on us? Do you think, as a political science professor, what is expected of the Kuwaiti government now to do along with its GCC members? Now, we have seen the interference in Bahrain, loudly, and in Kuwait under the table. What should be the reaction towards that, in your point of view?
Yeah, in my point of view, the Gulf states always calculated very well, because when we look to the Iranian side, they don't have anything to lose actually. If this
they have lost everything
because they don't.
They have lost credibility. I mean, among the international community. Yes,
and domestically they don't have anything to lose actually. There is no development to lose actually. They will go to the military side always, and they want to always to create a problem for their own. But we have a lot of things to lose actually. So as development and many things inside our societies. So and our regimes are original here. Their regime is just 3 decades and might any time will go. Gulf states always calculated very well, and in that calculation we know the balance of power actually in military or population or economically. And we have many problems in our Arab countries actually, especially right now uprising in many Arab countries. So right now maybe the best way to do it, bring all the Gulf states together, bring our this peninsula shield to make it more strong, bring other Arabic countries actually to our sides with many treaties, economic treaties, military treaties, political treaties, make it more ties. And then you might go to the international organizations and put it in their tables actually. Why not?
As did Bahrain bringing their papers to the United Nations.
Yes, and Kuwait can do it, and we support that actually.
Okay, let me move on to Washington. Hussein, you mentioned a while ago that the Iranian regime suppresses its own people while it supports other people outside their country. Especially, we heard it when let's say, call it the Egyptian revolution. They supported the revolutionaries. They supported the revolutionaries in Bahrain, and they are supporting any revolutions around but their own country. In your point of view, why are they doubling that situation? They're against revolution inside their country. They're repressing their people, but outside they are helping revolutions. What does this mean in political science, in your point of view?
I think in political science, this is the signature of the Iranian regime, being hypocrites first and foremost. And I don't think they supported revolutions in every Arab country. For instance, they have a good relationship with Syria, and so far we've seen the Iranians remaining silent on events in Syria. And like I mentioned during the beginning of this show, in other countries such as China, in the past the Iranian regime has remained silent because of its attempt to win China to its side amidst this huge international isolation and Security Council Resolution 1929 and other resolutions that are pressuring the Iranian regime. So the point here is that the Iranian regime is hypocrite. They cherry pick which revolutions they need to support, even though these revolutions have nothing in common with the Iranian revolution, like the Iranian regime was trying to depict it. Of course, Iranian officials were trying to say that the Egyptians took to the streets in the same manner that the Iranians took to the streets in 1979. I don't think anyone from Egypt agrees to this argument. I think the Egyptians have a totally different idea about revolting. They don't have the idea of establishing a so-called Islamic regime on the model of Iran. So I think the point of the Iranians is now clear to everyone. They have their own style of bluffing. Of course, Dr. Manna also talked about Iranian rhetoric on Israel. We hear Mr. Ahmadinejad saying often that Israel should be wiped off the map, whereas, of course, there has been no confrontation whatsoever throughout history between Iran and Israel. Instead, we've seen Iran pushing the Lebanese to their death during the war of 2006, when more than 1,200 Lebanese were killed in the war with Israel. They're also pushing the Palestinians to their death in the war of Gaza. It's an interesting way of handling things. I think the Iranians are bluffing, are using all kinds of trickery all the time throughout the region, and it's been a while that they've been doing this in the Gulf region and throughout the Middle East region at large.
Okay, let me go to Dr. Manna in Kuwait. Doctor, if you want to add anything to my guest what have said, and I want to ask you, what is the expected route of Kuwaiti-Iranian relations after the discovery of the spy network and the verdicts of the death of some Iranians in the country? What is the verdict, or what is the expected route of the Kuwaiti-Iranian relations from now on?
Yeah, I think now the Kuwaiti relations, the Kuwaiti-Iranian relations will not be as it was before. The Kuwaiti no longer, I think, trust the Iranian in dealing with them on equal terms, because we think as a friendly nation we're supposed to be respected very highly by the Iranian, and one of the sign of respect is to respect our sovereignty as a country, independent country.
Yes.
The interference in our affairs show that we are not trusted by the Iranian, and that means we should not trust the Iranian in the future, and that's definitely created a gap, political gap, economic gap between the two countries. As you might hear, the Kuwait severed the relation with Iran and will call on its ambassador for consultation in Kuwait. Some of the Iranian diplomats has been sacked and request to go to their own country. That's definitely just a measure early taken by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and Kuwait publicly. You know, Kuwait usually does not talk publicly about worsening relation between her and other countries unless this worsening reach the top. And that's, I think, what happened with the Iranian. The relation really worsening to the extreme of it is worse. And that's, I think, the Iranian regret that, or they tried to find an excuse that it is not true, it is not organized by the government, so and so. It might be true because there are so many institutions in Iran who are not from different types, and they are supervised by different dignitary. Therefore, it is this spy net being following or instructed by the National Guard, Revolutionary National Guard, and this is different from the Foreign Affairs Department. And that means, unfortunately, there are so many institutions dealing separately from each other and destroying Iran relation with its neighbors. And I just want to remind that criticizing Saudi Arabia or United Arab Emirates and sending their troops at the request of the Kingdom of Bahrain, this is really an insult to the Arab GCC countries. Why? Because Bahrain is an independent sovereign state and requested to be helped. Do you know what the Iranians said about that? They described this assistance from brotherly country to Bahrain as the same of Saddam invasion to Kuwait.
As
and
an
this is
occupation.
really absolutely ridiculous, because Saddam invasion to Kuwait was an aggression against an independent country, separated from his own country, while Bahrain, her legitimate government, requested the help of its brotherly country to assist her, at least to look after the Bahraini institution and the Bahraini borders, not to deal with the Bahraini citizen. And even if that happened, this is upon the request of a legitimate and recognized government from all the world.
Okay.
And this is different from the case of the Iraqi invasion against Kuwait, and definitely it is different from the occupation of the United Arab Emirates by Iran, which still exists up to this moment.
Oh, you mean the three islands, Tanb al-Kubra, Tanb al-Sughra, and Abu Musa. And Doctor, the Saudi cabinet met under the chairmanship of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince Sultan bin Abdulaziz. They highlighted the significance of the statement issued in Riyadh by the foreign ministers of the Gulf Cooperation Council member states at their extraordinary meeting. The statement condemned Iran's flagrant interference in the domestic affairs of the GCC member states and its efforts to spread sectarian strife in a manner that violates the sovereignty and independence of the GCC member states and runs counter to the principles of good neighborhood and to the international norms and laws. Doctor, we've been living with the Shiites, the Arab Shiites, for hundreds of years, for thousands of years probably. And we never had these problems. Why do you think the Iranian regime is playing on that tune that there is a Shiite and Sunnite, while in Kuwait there are brotherly relations between both sects, we had never appeared on a sectarian. Why is the Iranian regime playing, and as mentioned by Dr. Manna in Kuwait and also my guest in Washington, that they have never reacted towards Israel, who actually needs to be fighted against, because they're saying we're Muslims and Palestinians are Muslim. Why are they playing a double role? They're not fighting Israel and they're feeding the sectarianism in the region. Why is that?
Yeah, because, as you said, there is no problem in the Gulf states between sectarians, Shia and brother, and Sunni are
even in Iraq before the 2003, we never witnessed that.
Yeah, we are brothers, you know. Iran tried to play this role to divide these countries actually. Maybe they use one or two or three of them who has its own agenda, but not all these people who call them Shia. They really want Iran, or they work for the Iranian agenda. Just they want to put one or two things here, and because they want to create a problem here, you know. They want to say, Shia play for the Iranian agenda, and Sunni will work against them, and that will help Iranian policy in these countries. And we have to be aware as a people here, and I believe Shia and Sunni in these countries aware of that, and they understand that. And actually many Shia, they say, we know the Iranian agenda and we will not help Iranian policy in this way. as you say, Iran just they say they talk about the aggression about Israel, and they didn't want. They didn't.
Reminds me of Saddam Hussein. He wants to burn half of Israel in one.
Yeah, the same thing. And we understand that. And the good thing with this, actually this time, that the Arabic public opinion, they right now, who doesn't know about the Iranian agenda. This time, it's good for them to know the Iranian agenda toward their countries, actually.
Hussein, let me ask you, you mentioned a while ago that the regime of Iran wants to divert the attention of the international community from their nuclear policies or nuclear program. In your point of view, is that a game they are playing to divert the attention from their own domestic problems, and they want to divert it to the surrounding countries just to divert the attention of the international community? Or in your point of view, why is that? Why are they acting very strangely against their neighbors in the region?
Well, I think what Iran does is that they invent a narrative that they hide behind. Now, I heard you talking about the Iranian link to the Shia, to the Arab Shia and Arab countries, and I think the catch here is that no one knows what the Arab Shia think. I don't think that the Arab Shia support Iran or agree that Iran should intervene in their affairs. I think many might remember that in Iraq there was an independent Shia ticket that defeated the pro-Iranian ticket during elections. If we think about it, the Shia inside Iran itself, Mir Musawi or Mahdi Karoubi, or Mir Hossein Musawi, I'm sorry, or Mahdi Karoubi, these are Shia, aren't they? But still, they've been put under house arrest. They've been under pressure from parliament and government. So I don't see the issue as the Iranians are trying to depict it as their, as if the regime is protecting the rights of the Shia worldwide. How about the rights of the Shia inside Iran? How about the rights of the Shia in other places?
Hussein, I have only,
and this brings us back to
the idea is clear. I want to just go for Dr. Manna in 40 seconds. Doctor, is it possible to make a dialogue with Iran to change its policies towards the region for the sake of avoiding troubles and risks?
Well, I think if the Iranian decided not to intervene in our own political affairs, in our own internal affairs, and they promise that will not happen again whatsoever the reason, it might be because Iran is a fact, it is a neighboring country, it is a very a superpower regional country, and we have relations on so different bases in religious, in political, in economic. We are not enemy of Iran. We really don't want Iran to be the enemy of itself. We want Iran to look inside itself and develop. The government of Iran develop the country, look after the interest of the Iranian people, not actually spending the wealth of the nation on revolutionaries or uprising here or there. That means if Iran take care of its politics and respect its neighbor and give back the other countries their rights, such as the United Arab Emirates, we will respect Iran and will be very happy to have a very warm relations with them. And we will not allow whatsoever country, if we can, to attack Iran from our borders.
Dr. Aidil Manna, political professor of political science at Kuwait University, thank you for joining me for the last half an hour. And from Washington, D.C., I want to thank Hussein Adil Hussein, political analyst and a writer at the Rai newspaper. And also, I don't want to forget my guest from Bahrain, Sheikh Dr. Khalid Al Khalifa, member of the Shura Council and vice chairman of the Committee of the Foreign Affairs. And last but not the least, Dr. Ibrahim النحاس, Doctor of Political Science at King Saud University. And at the end, I want to thank my director, Hayam Al-Kilani, and the preparation team, Mishal Zahrani and Mohammed Al-Ghamdi. This is Hussein Shimri wishing you a good night and thank you for watching.